Hi there everyone, GuardianE here with another video on Destiny Child, and as most of you are aware of at this point, Destiny Child did announce its end of service later this year, starting in October. So definitely very, very sad. It's been a couple of days, I've had some time to digest it, and this is actually the first game that I've covered on the channel, and the first game that I've played for many, many years that has reached its end of service. It's always something that kind of looms in the background that people think about. I think that people tend to exaggerate about or make logical leaps about. But, you know, it's always a looming threat. I'm well aware of that, and anybody that's playing mobile games in general should know that. That is a sort of looming in the background at some point in some shape or form, and be comfortable with it in some shape or form as well. That said, this is momentous and very sad and momentous in that this is the first game that covered on the channel, and again that I've been playing for quite a bit of time, that is has reached kind of the end of the road and the end of an era. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel pretty gutted. I do want to take some time just to. It's gonna be a little bit of a different video, a little bit more free flowing, sort of just getting thoughts out and having sort of an open discussion about my thoughts on how it's being handled and what they're doing. And, what went wrong, potentially, quote-unquote wrong, right? I mean, again, every game has its life cycle, so it's not necessarily that something went wrong, but, what sort of led to the end of service and kind of, like, where things go from here. Alright, so I am going to take some time to talk about the actual end of service plan for Destiny Child Global, what they're planning on doing here. Obviously, the game released back in December 2018, and they're thanking us for all of the love and support over the years, and with a heavy heart, with disappointment, they announced that they're going to have to terminate the live service. Now, the timeline for this is that the app purchases actually have already ended at this point, so you're not able to make any in-app purchases, which I think is really great. I think a lot of companies, when they announce the end of service, they actually keep like the wallet open for a little bit longer. But they closed off the wallet like a couple of days after they announced the end of service. So yeah, I mean, at that maintenance, they shut it off. So no more in-app purchases. Now the actual game service itself is going to end on Thursday, September 21st, 2023. Now the Memorial feature update, which we'll talk about in a little bit about the future of the game and what state it's going to be in, after Friday, September 2022. So immediately after the termination of service, there's going to be this Memorial feature, and then the termination of official communities is going to take place on October 31st, 2023. So they're going to have a little bit of a grace period, just to close things out, and also I think probably address any questions or issues that arise out of this Memorial feature that they're going to be adding. So this Memorial feature is really fascinating. It's really interesting, but before we get into that, there is just a couple of other little snippets that they added here. So there's the Lisa's extra lessons, which is currently live, of course. That's still going on, and everything, all of the content scheduled for this update, that's all still going to continue, of course. And then they're actually going to make the shops, all of the stuff in the shops, free. So just go ahead and buy stuff that's in the shops. You can just grab it without having to pay for anything in there. It's all just up for grabs. Just go in there and grab all that stuff. All of the limited edition packs, the timed offers, the specials, the premium reward stuff, and the lawn phase shop. Just you can go ahead and grab anything that's in there. And there is going to be a daily gift event where they're going to be sending daily gifts of in-game currency, items, childs, and more to the mailbox. So they're just going to kind of pepper us with stuff as things start to come to a close. So here's the really interesting thing about the future of the game in its kind of switch up from the live service. So what they're going to do is they're going to, over the time, up until the release of the Memorial service, they're going to be making some updates to the structure of the game to make it run in this sort of isolated environment. So as I understand it, Destiny Child Memorial is going to be a separate download from the game stores like Google Play, and the Apple Store, where you can effectively open your account that was your Destiny Child account in Destiny Child Memorial to actually play it and actually experience, your account, like all of the units that you have, what you've leveled up, the skins that you've unlocked, the stories that you've gone through. You can experience all of that through that new app. That's just not a live service. It's not getting updated. It's not getting new events or anything like that. But you can keep your game data, continue to view that, enjoy the stories, the spa, everything like that after the story ends. So it essentially becomes just like sort of a memorial. I mean, that's what they call it. I think it's very appropriate, and you can go back and just re-experience things at your leisure if you'd like to, because your account is your account, and they're not just gonna get rid of it. You can experience it as you'd like to. Now, super important, in order to have your account transfer over to Destiny Child Memorial, you have to link your account from the in-game settings menu after the maintenance on August 17th. So after August 17th and before the actual termination date, which is September 22nd, I believe. So in that window, you have to link your game, your Destiny Child game, in the settings to the Memorial feature. We're going to get more details about that closer to probably the 17th when the actual update comes out, and you're actually going to be able to link your account. But effectively, they just need to know, first of all, that your account is active, that you're going to directly link it to Memorial for the future import and transmission of your account to the new platform and the new app. And that's basically what it is. And then the Memorial feature will just be available after the app update on the 22nd is what I understand. So that's how I understand it working, and we're going to get more details in the coming weeks to month or so about how to link that and making sure that we're linking it. So I think this is honestly like the best way to handle an end of service. I think it's I think it's relatively rare. I don't think it happens very often. I think the thing is that we know ShiftUp has money at this point from Nikkei, so maybe they can afford to do something like this as a tribute to one of their passion projects, whereas a lot of other companies, when their end of service hits, like the plug is pulled and the wallet is drained and they really can't do anything, and they don't have the luxury of doing something like this. I remember I saw some comments when the end of service hit for Destiny Child, indicating that a couple of other games have done something similar to this. This is my first experience with it, but it sounds great. It sounds like the perfect solution to keep the player base linked and happy in some way if you're going to announce an end of service to a long-term service game. Now, obviously, we're losing updates, we're losing new events. The story itself isn't going to get resolved. We're still behind the other servers, the Korean server, in terms of the story and the characters, so we're never going to get those, which is unfortunate. I don't know how TapTap is going to work either. Obviously the TapTap and I know the Google Play versions are linked in that they both kind of, they're transferable, right? So I don't know necessarily if there is going to be like a TapTap Memorial version, or if the TapTap folks just have to download the Google version. I'm not entirely sure how that's all going to shake out. Again, lots of details to come. But I think that what they've outlined as their solution, I think is such a great one for just like the integrity and maintaining the memory of the game for people to go back to and re-experience. And even if it's a couple years down the line, just going back, tapping in, and reading through one of the little, the fun little events, or even just interacting with the characters a little bit. I mean, I feel like that means a lot to me anyway. I think that's such a great move. And again, if an end of service has to be announced, I think that this is like the best way to go about it. So it's going to be a little different. I know not everybody's cup of tea at all in terms of videos. I just feel like it's something that I owe the game in a lot of ways, just because it's an important one. It's an important one to me. I really appreciated the game as a whole from its inception, and Hyung-tae Kim as a creator, I've always just loved his work. Back in his old art books of Magna Carta, and his work on those series starting back in the PlayStation 2 era and even prior. I've always been a fan of Hyung-tae Kim and the overall Korean art style, and Destiny Child was, I feel like a passion project and sort of his baby in a lot of ways. And unfortunately, I don't think Destiny Child was ever rewarded for what it did right. And I also think that this sort of reinforces that there may actually be such a thing as being too free to play and giving the player base maybe too much of what it wants, streamlining it too much. I think as a player base of mobile gaming, you have to pick your battles, because at the end of the day, when you get too much of what you want, we get complacent, we start to expect more, we expect too much, and then the game itself suffers, whether from a quality perspective, or it's just ultimately shortening the life of the game as well. I think that's something that Destiny Child ran into just because the accommodations that they made were, and the quality of life changes were extreme, and I think that where they were attempting to monetize wasn't really effective either. And whether that was out of trying to be generous to the player base or out of incompetence, I'm not entirely sure, and it doesn't really matter either. But, everybody knows that Destiny Child was an incredibly free-to-play title. You could get everything in the game, all characters, every piece of content could be unlocked for free, all the skins could be unlocked for free. All you had to do was just be patient and wait, and you frankly didn't even have to be that patient. You just had to be sort of persistent in doing your dailies and going about it efficiently. I guess I'm never gonna make that crystal farming guide at this point that a couple of people have requested from me, and I always kind of thought that one day I was gonna make. So that's not gonna happen, obviously. But yeah, I mean, again, it was one of those games where you could get everything for free, and the monetization options were kind of awful. Like, even if you wanted to support the game, the packages were they were kind of outrageously priced, didn't really offer a great deal for what they gave you. And so it was just very weird. It was very weird, and then it was super generous, didn't really know how to monetize itself, gave everything away, but it also felt like a passion project. It definitely felt like the creators were trying to put something out there of designs and characters that they really cared about, a story that they were crafting that they thought was compelling, and I felt was compelling as well in the storytelling element to it. Quite frankly, I think that's one of the appreciated elements of Destiny Child is the writing and the characters and the scenarios, because it's actually a really strong component of the game that not many people gave a chance to for one reason or another. And I think it is a core of ShiftUp's strength, and I think actually you see that carry through into Goddess of Victory Nikke. I think that people are now seeing, because Goddess of Victory Nikke is just so popular now, making so much money, and becoming a global presence, people are understanding or getting exposed to ShiftUp's writing and characterization and dialogue more now, and they're appreciating it as a result, and they're getting, they're getting their due, I think, from that, which is great, because again, I think that there are definitely elements of that in Destiny Child, and I feel like it didn't necessarily hit a wider audience. And now this is kind of their opportunity to do so with Nikke. But this isn't about Nikke. I mean, I guess there is something to be said about sort of the Nikke's growth and Destiny Child's, and obviously two very different approaches to monetization. One obviously being backed by a bigger company like Tencent that has a reputation, of course. And one that's, again, ShiftUp, by the way, ShiftUp is now the publisher of Destiny Child, but early on when it launched, it wasn't. It was, there was, I forget who the publisher was, and if I remember, I'll put it on screen, but they kind of screwed everything up. And they I remember that they eventually wrestled possession and publishing rights of the game back away from whoever originally had it, but the original group that was in charge, that was kind of where all of the initial censorship came from, and where I think they were strangled and hamstrung in terms of what they could do. And it wasn't long into the global launch. I think it was within the first year, maybe a little bit after. I can't remember exactly the timeline, but they took control back, and they made the game a lot better as a result. And they released a tap version that was basically uncensored. You could tell that they were trying, and you could tell that they really put their love into the game and try to make it as good of an experience for their player base as they possibly could. It was a passion of love. It really felt that way. And I don't know. I'm definitely sad. I'm definitely sad to see it go. For those of you that aren't aware, Nikke is like a runaway hit. Like it's just behind Genshin in terms of the money it's making and its like worldwide appeal and its growth. It's really exploded. If you compare revenue, right? Nikke last month made like $23 million. The month before made $34 million. Destiny Child, I wouldn't be surprised if it was making like less than $100,000 a month. I don't know how much it was making. I'm not entirely sure, and I could probably look it up and validate, but it's definitely nowhere close. Nowhere close. Quite frankly, most mobile games don't get up to that level. You know, aside from Genshin, and now I guess Honkai's Star Rail, and you know a couple of like choice up there. You know, Fate Grand Order on a good during a good celebration, stuff like that. Most games don't get that high, and so you see that huge disconnect in the reward that the company is getting from the effort that they're putting in each of their games, and they put a lot of effort into Destiny Child, and they're not really getting the most bang for that buck, right? So I'm not entirely surprised. I think when I heard the news, I was obviously very, very sad, but I also wasn't the most surprised because I just feel like Destiny Child doesn't have the monetization hooks in place for the long game. And I say long game relative, right? It's been around for over 6 years, right? So that a lot of games die well before 6 years. But I think a healthy gacha game, a healthy mobile game, can go for 10, 12, 15. I mean, we haven't seen the end. I get this question all the time. Is this game dying? Is this game... is this game going to have an end of service soon? How many more years is this game going to survive? You know, is it on the downward spiral? People ask these questions all the time, thinking that these games are always on the precipice of death, and that's really not the case. It's a very young market, so mobile gaming in general. Yes, games will be released and announce end of service within like a couple of months. That does happen, but a good mobile game, we haven't seen how far it can go. The oldest mobile games at this point are around like close to 10 years old, and they have no signs of stopping. So we haven't seen that horizon. There's no real line in the sand as far as how old a game will naturally die. It's not a thing, and people like to just jump to conclusions a lot, which is why it's really irritating when I hear people talk about games dying, because this doom posting sometimes it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy in ways, which is part of why I dislike it, because I think that it's almost as if people are trying to will it into existence. People are trying to stir up drama, trying to be contentious or contrarian. And in some cases, they're just scared because they like the game and they don't want it to die. But I think what people need to realize is that it's not about it's not about but I think that's what people need to realize is that a game doesn't necessarily have to die at a certain time. It's not like a timer is set and ding, the cookies are done and this game is dead. That's not how it works. I know I'm rambling, and I know this is going to be a big rambling video, but I don't know. It's just thinking about the end of service of Destiny Child, what it means, and kind of like the overarching feeling of what it is and what end of service means. It kind of just drums up those thoughts, right? And stuff that I've been thinking about and just kind of want to get off my chest, I guess, and hear what other people think about those types of things. People also like to use end of service as a means of suggesting that you should never put any money into a game. I strongly disagree. I mean, I think that what the game offers is an experience and a service and memories. So if you're comfortable with that, you should go in knowing that. If you're not comfortable with that, then absolutely don't spend money. And obviously, if you don't have a stable financial situation, you should not be spending money at all. But that notwithstanding, people like to say, oh, this game after 6 years is dead. Everything that you put into it is gone, and you can't access it anymore, which isn't true, because we're going to talk about how Destiny Child is handling their end of service, which is, I think, a really great move. But that argument just falls flat because you're completely discounting the 6 years of experience and play and enjoyment that you had, the connection that you had either with the community, the characters, all of that stuff. That stuff is not valueless, and I think that's what people. That's where people, I think, tend to. They tend to be reductive about how they're thinking about gacha games. So as far as future Destiny Child content on the channel, obviously time is ticking. We've got a limited amount of time, limited number of events incoming, and things like that. What I will say is we're definitely going to do a giant send-off goodbye video with a huge summoning session close to the end. So probably after the August 17th update, I would think. Maybe before, depending on what details we get. But I've got like hundreds of 5-star tickets. And obviously I've got like 500,000 crystals, and I've got like a ridiculous number of soul carded tickets. I've got I just like tons of child and skin selectors that I've just accumulated over the years. So I've got all of that stuff, and we're just gonna blow it all, because whatever you unlock in the game will transfer into the memorial. So I want to unlock everything that I can. Before that actual end of service. So yeah, we're gonna do that. Maybe we'll even do a live stream of it, just because it's probably gonna be really long. And so maybe we'll just make a little event of it. But I do want it to just kind of be this send off, this goodbye, to basically complete my account. Do everything in my account, finish everything in my account, and then get it ready effectively for the memorial. So that's the plan. In the meantime, maybe we'll do some pull videos here and there. I'm not entirely sure how many other new events we have scheduled and we're going to actually go through. Or we may just, again, maybe we'll just save everything for that kind of final hurrah, and that final giant summon video where we do like 500 pulls and like 1,000 tickets or whatever. I don't know. I have to check how much I have, but it's a lot. So yeah, those are effectively my initial thoughts on the whole thing, and kind of where I am and where we're headed. Thank you to everyone that watched our Destiny Child videos. Again, it was a game that meant a lot to me. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. And feel free to let me know, down below what your fondest memories are of the game, and how you're feeling about the end of service, how you're feeling about the memorial solution, and everything associated with it there. I know this was a super long, rambly video, but I kind of just want to get my thoughts out there sort of unfiltered. I don't usually do this, but in this case, I just kind of hit record in Audacity and just kind of like word vomited my way through this thing. So yeah, I went in a lot of different tangents and rants and things like that, but I don't know. I feel like I just wanted to be very transparently genuine about what I'm feeling and what I think about what's been going on and all of that. So if you stuck to the end, you're a trooper. Let me know in the comments down below if you actually watched all the way to the end of this video. I mean, I'm going to assume nobody has, and I'm just talking to myself right now, which I don't blame anybody for not sticking around for the entire video at all. But yeah, I definitely think I'm just kind of talking to myself, which I kind of just needed to just digest my thoughts and just kind of, I wanted to just have a platform to just kind of like talk about end of service and Destiny Child and my overall feelings and sentiments about what's going on and what that ultimately means for other games and things like that. So yeah, if you watched my channel mostly just for Destiny Child content, at least we're gonna have that one video that's gonna be a big sort of celebration send off, and then beyond that, hopefully you can find something else on the channel that interests you as well. If not, I totally understand. Moving on, but yeah, let me know down below in the comments what your thoughts are, what your feelings are. Share some memories of Destiny Child, and let's relish in the memories and get ourselves and our accounts ready for the eventual memorial app for when that rolls out. So thank you all so much again, and until next time, let's keep on grinding.